Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to another Arcaea reaction. I'm sorry if my energy is a little bit low. I'm on a medically required vocal rest right now, so I'm not as hyper as I usually would be. But this is Fracture Ray, an Arcaea song, specifically the second major boss apparently, as requested by St. Vina and my executive producers. And all I was given as context was that, and that they're totally gay, on God, for real, and also that this is a battle song, but not against each other. So that does clear things up for me, so I'm not going to be having misconceptions of what's going on story-wise, but I'll digress here and get into it. So without further ado, let's go! Lots of tension already. Ooh.
6, 5, 4,
okay.
3, 2,
Lots of little chromatic steps. Oh. Bro. My mouth was open and everything. You can't be doing that. I thought this was going in a different direction. Ooh. Oh, it got stankier. Okay. You had my attention. Now you have my interest. We're back to this. With like the chromatic steps. A little bit of syncopation in the percussion. Dude, let's go. I love how explosive this is. A little wash there at the end. That was gorgeous. I mean, like, completely unexpected with that switch up in there for me. I should have expected it. I somehow didn't. Okay, so I've talked a few times before how songs like this are now kind of more difficult for me to talk about too much, because there is the electronic elements of it and the difference of using music theory to describe that versus something more orchestral or like pop styled, something that has like standard chord progressions, is that they lean more into the sound design than the actual music theory. All that means is, while I can talk about the stuff that I could pick out of this song that is music theory, a lot of the electronic stuff is more sound design, and there isn't as much theory involved with that, at least in the same way. There's still definitely theory in there, but a lot of it is more playing around with the sounds you have and the textures you have and making a tone of that instead of utilizing known music theory standards to be able to create a structure of any sort. You do that with just sounds in general and not so much chord structures. So for this one, I thought this started out gorgeous. I love what they did for that transition into the electronic stuff, but we'll save that for when we get there. I believe this goes from, at the very beginning, A flat to G minor, and then it goes up to C minor, bounces up to here, lands in B flat, and then I think it even comes up here to the F minor and maybe settles Into the E minor, I'm not positive on those last two. I didn't really have the time to truly break those down this time around, but I do love that relationship. It just feels so good. It's almost like the Beauty and the Beast motif, if you know that one. It just, oh man, the constant sitting on the minors and flats in order to create this just raw tension that really doesn't go anywhere the entire time. The whole song here seems to be sitting in, again, I couldn't quite tell what key this is in because of the chords picked. They appear in a lot of things, so it's like I couldn't quite nail this one down. I'm sure it's probably something standard, but my brain just isn't there right now. But at the same time, this is a really cool progression that isn't standardized, and that's why it makes it a little bit more hard for me to pick out what exactly is going on. This is one of those tracks that doesn't conform to those standards, and it does make it that much more interesting. It's a little bit more classical in that way, and you can obviously tell through listening to this that it's inspired by that, at least in these more classic sections. The electronic obviously not, but for this it's 100%. And it sounds gorgeous what they do here and what they do to make it sound this way by never letting the chords settle or resolve anywhere and constantly using like single note breakups between them in order to keep the song singing in a way. So you never really know where this song is going to land, and that adds that much more tension to the whole relationship here, and it just sounds gorgeous. And like I mentioned, I was going to bring up that whole chromatic step up thing that I loved, and that's what was leading into the electronic stuff here. It's really just that. It's chromatic step up. So basically one or a half step up each for these chords that were just, again, adding a lot of tension. That's not something you normally do in a standard chord progression. Most progressions that sound good together are a few steps apart, and you just kind of stitch those together. When they're just a half step apart, there's too much, it's way too much note going on, way too much sound in place, and it can be too jarring to listen to. But for a song like this that's trying to lean into that sound and that overwhelming quality, and that happening right before and right as we're getting into that electronic section, which I'm assuming here is the fight section, we need to build up a little bit more of that tension, the rising tension right before a fight. The calm before the storm is now over, and even though there was tension, there's not nearly as much as we need yet, so let's do this chromatic build-up, make sure as much noise as possible is stacking on top of itself, so we really have nowhere to go and we're stuck with this sound. And then it leads into the electronic stuff, which just, again, did not expect it. Sounds brilliant. I wish I could be more excited about it, because I am, but I do have to watch my levels here. But oh man, just what a gorgeous, I love everything with that electronic section, just really playing around with it. It wasn't doing anything like super new or innovative or anything, but they were keeping it a little bit more reserved in a way, which I actually love, because it matched that classical tone we got in the beginning. So if anything, it's a characteristic trait for this song to stick more into that, I guess if you could call it some sort of a box, that's what it would be in. But even with what I just said about it sounding kind of similar, it separates itself enough that you're not really sitting here wondering why it's the same thing. It's obviously something different. It's just like it's paying homage to that classical sound, and that just sounds so good. And of course it's a fight, so there's a dynamicism to that. You want to make sure that the fight feels dynamic, so having that in the music makes sense too. That's why the song kept moving around a little bit more than it usually would. It wasn't just, sheer raw power bashing against itself. It had moments where the rhythm changed just a little bit, and for a couple measures we went into a halftime and we came back out of that, and that's that sort of movement that I'm expecting out of a fight where there's two characters going at it, but at the same time there's also a bit of give and take on who's in charge in the battle. It's not just a one-sided argument the whole time. That's something that I feel like a lot of people who make songs that are boss themes don't really do too often. They just make something big, epic, and it sounds great a lot of the time. But for this, it sounds musical, and that is far less common in my opinion when you actually have somebody who's making a song that feels like the characters are a part of that fight and not just making it sound cool for the sake of sounding cool. And obviously I've heard quite a few of Sakuzyo's songs at this point, not too many, but I think 5 or so, and that's enough for me to at least get a broad idea of what Sakuzyo's sound is, and this one, as far as the mixing quality goes, right up there with the rest. I haven't had a single problem with Sakuzyo's anything, really. The progressions they choose, the general sound they go for, the mixing and mastering of it all, it's all so clean and clear, and you can really tell where that intent is every single time, and that's why I think that Sakuzyo nailed that whole dynamicism of the fight for this one, because they're aware of how to make that work. They've played in both of these playgrounds of having both that classical approach and this electronic stuff, and they just make that blend work really well. So it's nothing new to me that Sakuzyo has another fucking banger on docket. It's just really good music, and they nail the theme, they nail the sound. It's just kind of a sound that I've come to expect out of Arcaea stuff. Just Sakuzyo's tone in general is something that I really enjoy, the energy it brings, and of course, like I said, the dynamicism every single time. I love how they include that and actually manage to make a tone out of it, a story out of it, instead of just making the big loud song that is supposed to be behind a boss theme. They don't just follow that suit of, okay, it's here. They actually pay attention to where the story beats are in it and make a story out of it. But I think I am done yapping about this one. My throat's starting to get a little bit raw again, so I'm going to end it here. Thank you all so very much for watching. If you have another song you want me to get to from Arcaea, by all means, drop in the comments below, and I will do my best as always to get to those. Or if, like Saint Vina did, you want to guarantee that I listen to something, you can always go to my Patreon or my YouTube memberships, where you can force me to listen to something. Doesn't matter what it's from, who it's by, if it's good or bad, none of that matters. That's why it's a guarantee. But if you don't want to do any of that, maybe just want to follow me and support me for more stuff coming in the future, hopefully stuff where my throat is a little bit more healthy, then you know how to do all that, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Goodbye!